To start this tutorial, the first thing we will do is maximize the top view and then go to the Curve tab. Next, we will click the Assets command. In the Asset Selector window, we will go to the Hearts tab. For this model, we will use Curve 020. Double-click it, and to place it in the center of the viewport, type 0 and press Enter. Now we can accept the command and begin. We will select the curve, and then select the 3 lower control points. Delete them. Next, select the curve again, and go to the Transform tab. In the Scale 3D command submenu, click Scale 1D. Make sure OSNAP is enabled. Using the guides, select the center point at the bottom of the curve and then the highest point. In the command bar, type 26.64 and press Enter. Now, to center the curve in the viewport, type Artisan Center and press Enter. Next, go back to the Curve tab and use the Line command. Type 0 to set the first point of the line. Then type 7.43, and while holding Shift, click on the right side to create a horizontal line that will serve as a reference. Using the gumball, move the curve vertically until it is approximately at the widest part of the shape. Now select the curve again and, using the gumball, scale it horizontally until it matches the length of the reference line. You can move the reference line horizontally if needed to see the alignment better and adjust the width more precisely. Once we have the width we need, we can delete the reference line. Select the curve again, enable Grid Snap, and using the gumball, move it down 2 grid squares. Now our curve is properly positioned. Next, we will create a series of ellipses to build our solid. Switch to the right view and use the Ellipse command. Place the first point on the left side. Don't worry too much about the exact position, as we will reposition the ellipse later. Type 6.75, divide it by 2, and while holding Shift, click on the top side. Then, for the horizontal size, type 3.76, divide it by 2, hold Shift, and click on the right side. Now we have our first ellipse. Now, using the gumball, we can position the ellipse above the horizontal line. As a reference, use the thicker grid line that marks 10 grid squares and count approximately 2.5 squares from it. Place the ellipse slightly above that horizontal line, as shown in the video. Once it is positioned, select the ellipse and type Rotate in the command bar. For the rotation axis, select the lower point of the ellipse. Next, select the top point of the ellipse. Then type 17 to rotate it 17 degrees to the left. Now the first ellipse is correctly positioned. To help guide the next steps, we will create a set of reference elements. First, go back to the top view. Then switch to the Drafting tab. Use the Vertical Dimension command, select the top point of the curve, then type 15 to set the distance. While holding Shift, click on the lower side to place the reference dimension on the right side. Next, go to the Curve tab. In the Line command submenu, select Perpendicular from Curve. Select the right side of the curve, then create the first perpendicular line at the top point. Since this is only a reference, the exact length of the line is not important. Activate the command again and create another perpendicular line at the point where the reference dimension intersects the curve. Once this is done, we can delete the reference dimension. We will use these perpendicular lines to create 2 additional ellipses, which we will later use to perform the sweep and generate the solid we need. To create the ellipse, select the Ellipse command. From the top view, select the end of the line that touches the curve, type 5, divide it by 2, and then use the perpendicular line to define the next point. Now switch to the front view. Type 2.8 for the vertical size and divide it by 2. Next, make sure the gumball is aligned to the object. To ensure the rotation is correct, Keep an eye on the top view. The ellipse should always stay aligned with the perpendicular line. Rotate it so that it is slightly tilted to the right, and position it above the horizontal line, as shown in the video. Use the video as a reference. Pause it if needed. Remember that every model is unique, so feel free to adjust everything to your preference. The goal of rotating this ellipse is to ensure that when we create the sweep, the part facing the inside of the model has enough space to position gemstones. We will see this later. Now we will create the next ellipse. Select the starting point, type 3.2, divide it by 2, and then use the perpendicular line to define the second point. Then, from the front view, type 2.2 and divide it by 2. Now we have our third ellipse. Rotate it using the gumball, holding Shift to ensure it rotates 90 degrees. Then position it above the horizontal axis and to the right of the vertical axis. Next, create a line. Enable Grid Snap and draw the line so that it crosses the central axis. Select the curve and the line you just created and use the Trim command located in the top left toolbar. Trim the left side. Now select the remaining part and, using the gumball, hold Alt and click the upward arrow to create a copy at 6.3 millimeters. Go to the Surface tab and use the Sweep to Rail command. Select the two curves, right-click to confirm, and then select the rails. Right-click again, then adjust the seams so they are at the bottom and pointing inward. If you see that an arrow is pointing outward, you can select it and type Flip in the command bar to correct it. Enable Refit Rails and press OK. Now we have our surface. For better visualization, switch to Shaded mode by holding Shift. If the surface appears pink, it means the normals are inverted. Select the surface and type Flip to correct it. Now select the surface and type Mirror in the command bar. Type 0 and press Enter to set the center point. Then hold Shift and click on the top side to mirror the geometry. Now we have the other side of the model. Next, run the Blend Surface command and select the two upper edges. Adjust the seams so they are positioned at the bottom and both pointing inward, then press Enter. With the default options, simply press OK. To finish the base, select all the parts and click Join in the top left toolbar. To continue, go to the Curve tab and use the IsoCurve command. Select the surface on the right side of the model. I will display the hidden curves so we can use them as references. Create the first IsoCurve on the left edge of the surface, then create another one on the right side. You can use OSNAP references and watch the guides. When you see naught, for example, it is usually a good position. The spacing is only approximate, so you can create the distance that best suits the placement of your gemstones. If you want to reduce the surface area available for gemstones, simply create another IsoCurve. You can also use the surface lighting as a reference and place a new IsoCurve in the brightest area. After that, delete the previous IsoCurve. Now we have a more defined surface area. Next, go back to the Curve tab and use the Blend command. Select the two IsoCurves, then adjust points 1 and 2. For better visibility, you can switch the display mode to wireframe. Adjust the curve until it reaches the area where you want the gemstones to be placed. In my case, up to this point. Then create another blend on the opposite side. Once again, change the display mode to make the adjustment easier. When it looks correct, accept the command. Take your time here and pause the video if needed. Once finished, select the two curves we created and use the pull command to place them onto the surface. Now that we have the area defined, go to the Solid tab and use the Push and Pull command. Select the delimited area, then right-click to confirm. Type 0.3 in the command bar and move the mouse toward the inside until the lines turn red. This will create the recessed area where the gemstones will be positioned. First, go to the Solid tab and use the Extract Surface command. Make sure that in the command bar, the copy option is set to yes. You can move this surface to a different layer to keep everything organized. Next, go to the Diamond tab and run the Automatic Pavé command. Provide the extracted surface to the command. Then set the gem size to 1.10 and remove the default size that appears. Click Add by Point. Select the right side of the surface and execute the command with right-click. To bring gemstones to the other side of the model, add another gem and press Compute. Continue placing the gems as you prefer by adding new gems and computing again to recalculate their positions. You can also add smaller gemstones in areas where there is extra space. At any time, you can lock the gemstones that are already in the correct position. Adjust the gem sizes and keep repositioning them gradually until everything looks right. This step is important. Take your time and refine everything until the pave layout looks perfect. Once finished, go to the Prongs tab. Set the diameter to 0.6, the overgirdle to 0.2 millimeters, and the undergirdle to 0.3 millimeters. Then click Compute automatically. After that, add the remaining prongs manually. You can adjust their sizes and finalize the model according to your own style. Every designer finishes pave settings differently, so this is the moment to be creative and personalize the design. I will leave the video in fast mode to avoid making the tutorial too long, but feel free to pause it if needed to check the prong placement. Keep in mind that the exact placement will depend on the gemstone arrangement you created. Pause here if you want to see all the measurements I am using. Next, go to the Cutters tab. Select the last preset, activate it, and accept the command. Then go directly to the Solid tab and use the Boolean difference command. Select the solid, right-click to confirm, then select the cutters and confirm again. This will cut the solid accordingly. Now that we have done that, we will add a small detail. Select the gemstones. Go to the Diamonds tab and use the Gem Move command. Type 0.1 in the command bar. This moves the gemstones along their normal direction, creating a small gap between the gems and the solid, which will make the render look much more realistic. Now, to continue with the model, switch to the top view. Switch the display mode to wireframe. Then go to the Curve tab and in the Arc submenu, use the Arc by 3 points command. Select the two seams of the solid as shown in the video and create an arc. Select the arc you just created and go to the Solid tab. Run the Pipe command, change the cap option to round, and set the radius to 0.3 millimeters. Right-click to confirm. Now position the pipe from the right view. Next, go back to the Curve tab and create a circle. Using the right view in wireframe mode, draw a circle that surrounds the pipe. After that, create another pipe from this circle. Make sure the Record History option is activated because this will allow the pipe to update automatically when we modify the circle. While looking at the model from the perspective view, adjust the size of this last pipe to your preference. Once you are happy with the result, go to the Diamonds tab and create a gemstone with pear shape and 1.13 carats. You can assign a ruby color and simply add it to the workspace. Using the gumball, rotate the gemstone 180 degrees so it points upwards. Move it slightly upwards for now. The final positioning will be adjusted later. select the gemstone and add a basket, but do not select any preset. Instead, click Edit. Change the prong mode to Claw. To make the editing easier, select the rest of the model and type Hide in the command bar so only the gemstone and basket remain visible. Edit the basket again and adjust the parameters. Set the diameter to 1.40 and the height to 3.50 millimeters. Leave gem inside at 0.05. Set over girdle to 0.40 millimeters. And set the bottom diameter to 1.40 millimeters. The bottom rail inside should be 0.40 millimeters. For manufacturing expansion, set the value to 0.80. Then adjust gem inside to 1.63 millimeters and change the height to -0.15. You can adjust the tip direction and smoothness as you prefer. Finally, leave gem inside at 1.54 millimeters. Now go to the Rails tab. We will focus on the lower rail because the upper rail will be disabled. Change the profile curve to curve 004. Set the width to 0.8 millimeters. Increase the height to 2.40 millimeters and set the rotation to 18. Move the slider to 18, disable the upper rail, and accept the command. Next, position the gemstone and basket so they sit correctly on the ring. Show the rest of the model again. From the right view, move the basket and the gemstone upwards until the bottom aligns with the rest of the model. We are almost finished. The only remaining step is to create a bail. Go to the Accessories tab and run the bail command. Accept it without selecting any preset and place the bail at the top of the model. Then, edit it. Change the upper profile curve to curve 017. Adjust the parameters by setting the width to 3.5 millimeters, the height to 1 millimeter, and the bottom diameter to 1.50 millimeters. Adjust the sliders to your preference. Now configure the O-ring parameters. Set the thickness to 0.8, the diameter to 2.70 millimeters, and increase the overlapping distance to 1.90. After that, edit the lower profile and set the width to 1.20 millimeters and the height to 0.90 millimeters. Now you can accept the command. The only thing left is to position the bail correctly, and our model is completely finished. I will leave a reference render, but feel free to send us your own result.